Bartholomew Thistlethwaite was a man perpetually shrouded in a cloud of discontent. The world was a collection of grievances. The weather was too hot, too cold, or simply inconvenient. Soup was never the right temperature, birds chirped too loudly, and the mailman whistled an irritating tune. His face, permanently etched in a frown, mirrored the barren landscape of his soul. One particularly dreary Tuesday, Bartholomew awoke with a splitting headache. Dismissing it as another cosmic slight, he shuffled through his day, grumbling at shadows and cursing misplaced salt shakers. As the sun dipped below the horizon, however, the headache morphed into an excruciating pressure. His world narrowed, the room shrinking around him. By the time the moon bathed his room in silver, Bartholomew had become a curious sight, a miniature man with a head the size of a watermelon. Panic rose like bile in his throat, replaced by a chilling emptiness as he realized his limbs couldn't move. Days bled into nights, the man trapped inside his growing head, witnessing the world unfold like a silent movie. Rain was an icy torrent, sun a searing inferno. He couldn't eat, couldn't speak, the once abundant fuel for his misery now absent. Then a strange thing happened. His body, useless and shrunken, merged with the earth beneath him. Roots, unseen and silent, spread, anchoring him to the ground. Tiny green buds sprouted from his head, unfurling into leaves. He became a tree, his form twisted and grotesque, a constant reminder of his misfortune. But something unexpected shifted within him. The relentless negativity, the constant churn of complaints, began to fade, replaced by acceptance. A silent symphony of nature played around him, the whispering leaves, the chirping birds, the rustling wind. He felt the sun's warmth on his leaves, the coolness of the rain. He was part of something bigger, something connected, something beautiful. The irony was not lost on him. As a man, he craved happiness, yet never recognized it in the mundane symphony of life. Now, a tree, unable to move, speak, or even frown, he finally understood the simple joy of existence. He yearned for the grumbles, the complaints, the very things that once defined him. He longed for the freedom of choice, the ability to be miserable, a luxury now stolen. Bartholomew, the human tree, stood as a silent testament to the complexities of happiness. It wasn't about the absence of problems, but the ability to appreciate the good amidst them. And sometimes the greatest lesson comes not from what we have, but from what we lose. And though the irony gnawed at him, somewhere deep within his wooden heart, a single, silent thought bloomed. Perhaps, he whispered to the wind, misery wasn't so bad after all. The wind carried Bartholomew's sigh, swirling it through the leaves of other trees, whispering his discontent. Yet even as he longed for his old life, a subtle shift had occurred. He no longer resented the rustling leaves, the chirping birds, or the relentless sun. He absorbed them, felt their rhythms, and understood their interconnectedness. One stormy night, as lightning split the sky and thunder roared, a bolt struck Bartholomew. Electricity surged through his wooden form, a painful yet strangely invigorating jolt. The next morning, the villagers gasped. The gnarled tree had vanished, replaced by a man, small and fragile, huddled at its base. Bartholomew, his memories flooding back, looked up at the sky, no longer with contempt, but with awe. His transformation sparked fear and suspicion. Whispers of magic and curses filled the air. Yet Bartholomew, no longer the man fueled by discontent, surprised everyone. He spoke softly, his voice raspy from disuse, but filled with genuine warmth. He recounted his tale, not with bitterness, but with a tinge of humor and the wisdom of one who had glimpsed another world. He stayed in the village, becoming its storyteller, weaving tales of his time as a tree, tales that spoke of nature's beauty and the interconnectedness of all things. He helped tend the gardens, his small hands surprisingly strong, his touch imbued with a newfound respect for life. Though he never fully regained his former size, he walked tall, his head held high. His face, once etched in frowns, now held a serene smile. He found joy in simple things: the warmth of the sun, the taste of fresh bread, the laughter of children playing beneath his former branches. He never forgot his lesson. He knew that life wasn't meant to be perfect, that problems would arise, and that grumbling might seem easier than gratitude. But now, armed with his unique experience, he faced them with a newfound perspective. He understood that happiness wasn't the absence of misery, but the ability to appreciate the good amidst it. As Bartholomew grew older, the villagers never forgot the man who was once a tree. His story became a legend, a reminder that sometimes the greatest journeys and transformations happen when we least expect them, and that true happiness often lies in appreciating the simple beauty of being alive. And sometimes, when the wind rustled through the leaves of the trees planted around the village, they swore they could hear a faint whisper, a sigh of contentment, a silent thank you from the man who learned to love life, leaf by leaf.